Boom, started. All good. All right. Yeah, that's it looks weird, but it has me on camera. It should have.
Okay.
So let's do this. Hi guys.
Hey, how's it going?
So yeah, you're from Lamassu.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit like what Lamassu is about, when it started and stuff like that, and a quick intro?
All right, sure.
I'll let you start
And
that.
who you are as well, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Lamassu is a Bitcoin ATM manufacturer. We manufacture Bitcoin ATMs. We were the first ones to start manufacturing them commercially. And when we started, we were in Manchester, New Hampshire in the US, but we always started manufacturing here in Portugal. And we got to do that through the industrial designer that designed the actual machines for us when we sat down with him. And we told him exactly what we wanted to do and what this Bitcoin thing was and how we wanted it to work. And he understood it immediately and made a really great design, and we've been working with him ever since. And he was in Portugal and was able to manufacture it in a super high quality manufacturing facility. And so that was the first time we were in Portugal, and we've been coming here ever since and making our machines and newer models in Portugal.
All right.
And so that's what Lamassu is.
Yeah, so in a sense we got to Portugal basically just by lucky coincidence. And we were searching for industrial designers anywhere, basically, on the internet.
All
We
right.
didn't
Well,
care.
why not China or something?
Yeah, well, China, they're very good at large production, but it's very hard to get started with just a prototype and to get everything right the first time.
Okay.
And usually you'd have to go there and make sure the quality is good and really know who you're dealing with. And we just started from, our first prototype was this wooden box that we hammered together, in the backyard.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, how do we bring this to the next step? And we had never done manufacturing before. We had no idea what was going on. So we needed somebody who could really handhold and get us started.
Okay.
And we just hit it off immediately with Claudio from Portugal, who's we're working with very closely to this day.
Okay. Well, I used one of your ATMs. I don't know, 2013 or something. Like there was one in Dublin.
Right, one
And
of the
so-
first ones went to
Alright.
this
Well then.
crazy guy in Dublin. Didn't
Okay.
last very long.
Well, probably I was working with him for a bit. I don't know. Like we had quite a few ATMs in Dublin. But yeah, one of them I did use, and that was Lamassu. I mean, in Dublin actually at the time there were like pretty big Bitcoin community, and we had like 3 different types of ATM in 2013. So there was the maybe this one was 2014. The the $1,000 one.
Yeah,
that
Skyhook.
Yeah, the Skyhook.
Yeah.
We had one Skyhook. Just a tablet stuck
Right,
into
yeah,
the box.
Yeah.
There was also the massive one. Don't know the name of this one. It was really big.
Robocoin.
Robocoin, probably.
Yeah.
And I know this one was brought in a pub somewhere. I saw it, but I never actually seen it working. I think they never managed to make it actually work.
Yeah,
So we had one, but I don't think anybody ever used it because it didn't work.
right.
And so the Lamassu was set up in a cafe where they had a lot of people coming and just going there just to buy some Bitcoin, and we were doing the Bitcoin meetups there as well. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, I've used your first generation devices.
Yeah,
and they were pretty
And that's a really fun part of this industry is you get to talk to people who like one of their earliest memories in their Bitcoin journey was getting some Bitcoin and Bitcoin ATM. Sometimes that was how they got their first Bitcoin. And that's really what it's all about for us is a way to really make it easy for people to go from zero to Bitcoin and to figure this out because they understand cash, they understand putting money in a machine,
Right.
and then they understand seeing the Bitcoin on their phone right away.
Yeah.
And-
We've talked to Bitcoin investors who have put larger sums into Bitcoin, but they told us they wouldn't have done that if they wouldn't have put the first 20 euros or $20 into our machine first and getting a feel for it and seeing what this is all about.
Yeah, because it is a very abstract concept, and sometimes you just want to be able to feel some kind of actual transaction.
Right, so Bitcoin ATMs are never going to get the same kind of volume that you have on online exchanges. But for us, it's always a good feeling knowing that people are using these machines in and out every day and have been since 2013. And it's always fun to talk to people who've used them But that's always been the passion for us, is to do whatever we can to get just a few more people into Bitcoin in the easiest way possible.
Did you ever operate them, or you just manufactured and,
No.
and sold them?
No, it is a completely different business to
Okay.
operate a Bitcoin ATM.
Yeah.
And every time we've thought about it, we've decided it's just too much. It's just like opening any other business that has nothing to do with manufacturing.
All the
Bitcoin
regulation
ATMs.
and stuff as well.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the biggest parts. But there's so many different aspects to these guys. I mean, you have to work pretty hard to be an operator, and there's operating the machines themselves, getting the cash flow, finding locations, dealing with the customers, and then there's they're dealing with the regulators, dealing with the banks. So there are a lot of different aspects. It's really a full-time job. And as Zach said, it's very different from the stuff we deal with, which is manufacturing, software. It probably would help if we operated some, because we'd be able to see the day-to-day struggles of operators, but it would also take up so much of our time to actually run that business on the side. So
Right, and I mean, honestly, the main reason we wanted to is because we still feel things aren't moving fast enough. Like there are
especially
people
in certain
that are,
countries. So
especially in certain countries, and in a lot of the countries, Bitcoin ATMs are doing great. There just isn't enough competition, and things aren't moving fast enough. And so,
In terms of selling Bitcoin?
in terms of the amount of Bitcoin ATMs out there, so fees are naturally going to be higher. And I think in the days of 2014, 2015, some of our most successful operators had fees of 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
Just to buy. And I'm not talking about a spread. This is just to buy Bitcoin. And that's because people used them because they didn't have anywhere else to go if they wanted to use cash.
Yep.
And so obviously we want the fees to be lower. We want there to be more volume so operators can profit from having lower fees.
Sure.
But as of now, there just isn't enough competition in the Bitcoin ATM world. It's starting to be the case in the US, but I haven't really seen that anywhere else yet.
So then there are countries like Germany where you have almost zero.
Yeah.
It started at zero. Now maybe there are a few trickling in, and that's probably because of the very strict stance that the regulator took, and really high upfront costs, and to get the license to operate an ATM legally. And if you don't operate it legally, they're going to come and shut you down right away.
Yeah, there is also to my experience, I've seen places where there were ATMs and then they were closed down because of different reasons, the type of people that were showing up in the shops, if it's in the shop.
Right.
So I do believe, for example, ATMs should be in a public place much more than maybe in a restaurant or something, because they are not necessarily customers of your restaurant coming there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that might be disturbing your customers, it might be noisy people, that might be people who are just coming to you and saying, hey, I have a problem with my wallet, and the guy has no idea.
I would say the rule of thumb is that you want to go in there and not have to talk to anyone or ask where it is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Because I would think twice before going into some kind of bar where I had to open the door, there's loud music, I have no idea what's going on there. But if it's just I think probably one of the best locations is a convenience store.
Yeah.
Where anybody can walk in and walk out without anybody asking them what they're doing. They can walk out with a bag of crisps or with some Bitcoin. And especially when it's open 24/7 is even better. So I think in the early days people wanted to know where to put the machines, and they're like, oh, I'll put it in a financial center. Yeah. Oh, I'll put this in a co-working space. That's for fintech. But the bottom line is people just want a place that's easy to get. These aren't necessarily the people it's not the demographic that you think of. And the interesting thing about Bitcoin ATMs is they're really grassroots. These are people that you wouldn't imagine that are buying Bitcoin. And so you just want it to be in a place that's convenient, period.
All right. Yeah, I mean, to me it makes sense. And I also exchanged a few emails last year, but for this space, for example, it'd be cool for us to have one just because we have a lot of people coming and asking, hey, where do I buy Bitcoin? And we don't really want to operate a broker, at least not now, there is no volume. But even for an ATM, for us, in a space like that is closed, and we don't want people ringing the bell every few minutes to come here, it would be just to operate for a few hours, maybe during meetups or stuff.
Right. It would be better if you were able to operate it in some kind of space downstairs or on the street that's nearby.
For sure, because just the overheads of taking care of dealing with the cash afterwards and stuff like that, I know nobody would want to do it here. So it's a cool idea, but we can't apply it here, for
Yeah.
example.
So that's actually something interesting about the evolution, I think, of the Bitcoin ATM industry, if you want to call it that, is that when we first started these machines, we didn't really know what the market was going to be. We just thought it was a cool thing, and people started getting
we didn't
excited.
even know if there would be a market, how the economics would work, because it never been done before.
Yep.
And we didn't know if the fees coming in could pay for the machines and the operation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to how the Bitcoin fees work. Will the Bitcoin fees be able to pay for the security when the block reward goes down? So we're just like, this is a cool idea. Let's see what happens. And the people who were buying the machines from us didn't know either because it had never been tried. So this kind of involved a business model.
It was kind of like back in 2013, it was mostly libertarians into Bitcoin. So we thought, oh, maybe there's like a libertarian bookstore and they'll have one there. Or maybe somebody libertarian has a cafe and he'll want to put it in there. And then over time, you had fewer and fewer operators with one machine, and it started consolidating into these operators. And that's their business. They start up a business to operate 5 to 10 to 100 to possibly hundreds of machines.
Yeah.
And they do that because it's profitable.
And I guess it makes sense also, like getting the first one is a hard thing to do, like getting the bank account.
It scales because first of all, you only have to deal with the regulator once, you only have to deal with the bank once, you only have to run one server, the learning curve for the software, finding locations, you have to find a location for each one, but you start getting good at it, and maybe you'll find a location that has multiple places.
You have standard deals, you know how to talk to people, you know how the setup works. If you need more machines, you just tell the manufacturer, I need 10 more machines. And they're online, a day or so after you get them.
That's cool. Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot easier to run, 20, 30, 40 machines than one.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Per machine.
At the same time, one of the things I like about the industry is it's still somewhat decentralized. Because as a manufacturer, first of all, there are multiple manufacturers, but we're not in control of any of the records or the funds or anything. We just make like the steel machines and the software, general purpose.
Did you have any problems with like somebody, involving you in some kind of like theft of funds or something? Like, did ever like an operator lost funds or whatever and
operators
tried to scam you out of it?
Yes. Well, operators have lost funds, but it's usually been because they were using, say, a wallet that sent their password to one of their emails.
But it never, nobody ever came back to you saying, you guys, you probably put a backdoor in there or something?
Not a backdoor, but they would, at first they would say, they would blame it on the software or something.
Sure.
And, but usually it turned out it was either social engineering, or
they sold the machine to someone.
They sold a machine, they didn't impair it, and then the person who got the machine maybe wasn't that trustworthy and was like sticking cash in there and just taking the Bitcoin.
Alright, okay. Yeah, so that's cool. So it means that the people, at least, they have some good understanding of what they are doing usually, and they are not going to come back to you every time something happens.
Yeah, it's surprisingly, because it's very hard to do this, to secure your Bitcoins in hot wallets. A lot of it has to be hot wallets these days because the transactions are happening all the time. So it's holding up surprisingly well. The operators are pretty good at this, and they kind of have to be because it's their money.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's some difficult problems to solve there.
But since there's so many operators around the world, it's kind of more distributed than just like one exchange that's serving the entire world and has to be compliant in every single market. So each operator only has to be compliant in their jurisdiction. That makes things that allows them more flexibility and people who are operating in better jurisdictions can get up and running a lot more quickly. And so you'll find a lot of Bitcoin ATMs in Switzerland, for instance.
Yeah, also there, you can buy Bitcoin on the train ticket vending machine and stuff.
That's true. Yeah, even the official government train ticket vending machines.
Pretty insane fee.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So what did your day look like you guys at Lamassu? So the manufacturing is handled by the Portuguese company.
Right.
So you are just dealing with the software backend, stuff like that, I guess?
Yeah, well, we have a very kind of remote team. So we have people in Bulgaria, Portugal, so both employees and the manufacturing contractors, subcontractors.
Mm-hmm.
Where the company's based in Switzerland, that's where Zach and I are. And so it's kind of coordinating the manufacturing, the actual shipping out of the machines, the sales,
All right.
marketing, and also all the software stuff all at the same time.
And are you both technical, or just one of you guys is dealing
Yeah,
most with the
so
business?
I have a degree in computer science, so I'm heading most of the software team.
Okay.
And Zach is kind of more of the CEO and overall taking care of everything.
All right. And it's a two-people company when you started it, or?
Yeah, it's kind of the like now. It's kind of changed over time, the
Sure.
top people, but yeah, it was more or less 2 or 3 people when we
Cool.
started.
So like a small project, get off the ground, and like hardware
Yeah.
is pretty hard. So by definition,
Well, yeah, in a
it's hard
sense,
to start.
it's two businesses in one.
Mm-hmm.
And not all manufacturers of Bitcoin ATMs or manufacturers do that, because there's some that only handle the software side. So they'll get generic kiosks and they'll only handle the software. Of course, there are some advantages to that, but it was very important for us to design it from scratch
Mm-hmm.
and have something that was more unique to Bitcoin, and for us to be able to design all of the different components and the user interface from scratch for the use of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So we wanted to do the hardware, and but software we had to do. And you can't have a Bitcoin ATM company without doing the software. So it's really two completely separate parts of the business, and we do both of them, and it gives us more control, but it's also a lot more work. And they're both very time consuming. Software is very difficult, especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies and user interface, and hardware is the same. There are hardware complications all the time. And in fact, these things have actually gotten more difficult over time. When we first started the Bitcoin ATM business, the user interface was incredibly simple, because we didn't have a two-way machine. We didn't think that was so important at the time. Just like all you need to do is buy Bitcoin. Why would you need to sell it?
That's still all you need to do. But
Yeah. And so we just built this really cute, compact machine that only had a bill acceptor. It's like, put your notes in and forget about them. We'll take care of the rest. Well, the operator. And then, this was 2013, so regulation wasn't a big issue. There were no other cryptocurrencies that anybody cared about, so it was only Bitcoin. And so that made it very simple. It was just,
There was no
press
printer.
start.
There was
Press start, scan your QR code, put in the note, press send, boom, you have your coins.
Yeah.
And then over time, there was demand for cash out. So we had to build a module for cash out. We had to build all the software for cash out, which is a lot more complex, because now we have to wait for a confirmation, because it's the user's end. And then compliance started being a thing. We have to start, sending out SMSs. We have to start scanning IDs. In some cases, taking photos. Do we have to, check any kind of lists? Or, we don't want the operators going to prison. And so there's that stage. And then, of course, all of a sudden, operators want more cryptocurrencies. And so things get more complex over time, which is, it's a demand, so we have to do it.
Alright.
But on the other hand, it's not as much fun for user interface. It's like you have all these things that you have to figure out all of a sudden of how this works.
So on this, actually, I have a question. Getting multiple cryptocurrencies is probably, very difficult, and also a security risk. And how can you focus your efforts into, delivering a secure and simple product when you have people who want every single shitcoin or whatever?
Yeah. So
added to the thing. And also, is it actually working in terms of business? Like, do you know actually if your operators are actually selling altcoins as well, or is it mostly Bitcoin?
I'll just start from the last one, and then Josh can answer the first one. The last one is, right now, no. Right now, it's probably 90-something% Bitcoin.
All right.
And that's fine. But if you go back a little over a year when the fees were super high, it was not profitable to use Bitcoin with the machines. So they had to have some other coin for people to buy with lower fees, or else nobody would use their machine. Nobody's going to put in $100 to get $10 worth of Bitcoin or $50 worth of Bitcoin. once you take into consideration the fee and the operator's fee.
Yeah.
And so that's an ongoing issue, since the fees at any point can go back up to that for either temporarily or permanently, and so you have to have some kind of solution.
Yeah,
Right.
and we did restrict it to about like maximum of 6 coins that we'd support, and we weren't gonna just. There were tons of requests coming in for all kinds
I mean,
of.
6 is already a lot.
Okay, that is a lot, yeah. And it did add to the complexity, for sure. There's no question about it. And I do think, as Zach said, like the majority is still in Bitcoin.
Okay.
Probably more so even now.
Right. It's
so we'll
probably
see,
not worth it for an operator to deal with anything else but Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
But I think that they feel that in any case they feel good knowing that if the fees do get to the point where it's not profitable, that they at least have one of the options that they feel most comfortable with. Whether it's Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash.
Yeah, so that is a particular pain point for Bitcoin ATMs. As soon as the fees go up to several dollars,
All right.
a lot of these transactions, the average transaction size just doesn't make sense anymore. And the kind of business model for these operators who have invested a lot in their business, they get really scared, and rightly so. And
Alright.
the question is like, can Lightning Network help with that? It's not clear yet.
Well, for sure it can, right? But
Well, you have to look at it really carefully. What does the user need in order to get started?
Yeah. And how much money they put in.
Will they be doing a single transaction, in which case the fee might just be the same anyway?
Mhm.
And what can we do to, are there any kind of creative ways to make this really work economically for the whole system?
No, that's a cool idea, and it also depends on the amounts, I guess. Like if it's €20, sure, Lightning really makes sense. If somebody wants to put €2,000, you're not gonna put a channel with €2,000 in it. I mean,
Yeah,
that would not be very smart.
right. And
So
that's why
interesting.
the transaction size of Bitcoin ATM is kind of right in that middle
Yeah.
part where it's of course, instant transactions
200,
would be awesome because of if you're doing cash out, for instance, where you're sending in bitcoins and you want to get cash. If you want to get a little bit of cash to pay for lunch or pay for your rent or something, in theory, Lightning should be great for that because you don't have to wait around for the confirmation if everything is set up correctly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an alluring concept, but we have to see how that.
I mean, we've been monitoring it for probably about 2 years now, trying to figure out how we can implement it, how it works. And of course, the first thing, it has to be robust enough for it to work every time.
Yep.
Because it's not, if it works 80 or 90% of the time, it's nowhere near what it has to be for a Bitcoin ATM.
Yep.
And so we kind of have to wait until it's at least at the level where it's 99.9 or so.
Yeah.
And then we could start looking into it and figuring out at what point does it make sense and how to integrate it, and that'll also be a lot of work because,
especially for this is
For,
for
like,
a lot of this
transactions
is for
in the middle.
first-time users who've never used Bitcoin before. So it has to be very friendly for first-time users. They have to understand the different wallets, and Lightning wallets have to be very popular and work well and all that stuff.
It makes sense, and also receiving on Lightning is not really the simplest thing today. I mean,
Yeah.
some want to do it, some don't. It's
Right.
complicated.
Right.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, we'll just plug that we're looking for a developer, a JavaScript. Mostly our code base is in JavaScript. We have a lot of front-end stuff for the admin interface, and also all the good stuff, all the hardware control and the basic logic of the machines is mostly in JavaScript, little c. So anybody who's interested, just hit me up at josh@lamassu.is, and we have a little candidate project that we send out. But yeah, it's a really fun environment, lots of Bitcoin.
And people can work from wherever they want?
Yeah, at first we were looking in Portugal, but we've kind of expanded that to almost everywhere.
Okay.
We're not looking in the US right now, but everywhere else.
Okay, cool. So if they're in the US, they need to figure things out. And,
They can move to Canada.
exactly. All right, cool.
Right.
That's it.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks
thanks
a
so
lot.
much,
Good.
Kevin.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Pleasure.
Good to see you.
Yeah.